Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the second Elets BFSI Game Changer Summit presented by AWS, powered by Backbase. So now we have our third panel discussion for day two. The topic for this panel discussion will be the challenges of securing zero trust networks. So, zero trust architecture refers to security controls and threat models that no longer assume that actors, users, systems, or services operating from within the security perimeter should be automatically trusted. And instead, everything must be verified in order to operate. But it often faces several challenges. So, will the BFSI industry be able to implement it? We will discuss this in the panel. For the moderation, we have Mr. Karthik Sharma, Managing Editor, eGov and Health Vertical. Hello, Karthik sir. Mr. Damodaran Chambat, Chief Risk Officer, Federal Bank. Mr. Kunal Katpal, Chief Risk Officer, Hinduja Leyland Finance Limited. Mr. Shibu PS, Chief Information Officer, Indian Bank. And Mr. Manoj Srivastava, Chief Information Security Officer, Future Generali Insurance. Now, I'd like to hand it over to Mr. Karthik Sharma, who will be moderating this panel discussion. Over to you, Karthik, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aman, for giving me this opportunity to discuss on a very important topic right now in this second ELS BFSI Game Changer Summit. And I also can see that a lot of audiences started joining. More and more audience are watching us on the Avatar 3D platform, virtual platform of Elets Technomedia. And a very important topic in current scenario, uh, uh, the zero trust security model. As the topic suggests, the challenges of securing zero trust networks. When in today's scenario, people are working in a very complex environment, especially in the banking sector. People, when people deal with their money, they are vulnerable to the fraud, and a lot of risk is involved in that. And at the same time, the structure is very complex. People are using their mobile phones, their laptops, their office systems, their personal systems. So there are multiple devices, multiple complex situations. At that time, the, the idea sounds really good that have no trust at any step. You have to be. There should be verification at every step in the processes. So this is it an opportunity or a challenge, especially when it comes to BFSI sector? So it is rapidly, a growing model within the enterprise space globally. But I would like to know from these experts have joined us here. First of all, I welcome all of them. They spared their time. They are leaders in their space and uh, adding great value to the summit by their participation. So I would like to ask the first panelist that how do you see that is India's BFSI sector ready to embrace this, zero trust security model, and also throw some light on and give some insights to our audience about this, zero trust networks, and just throw some light on the significance of this model in BFSI sector. I would like to start with Mr. Kunal Katpal, Chief Risk Officer of Hinduja Leyland Finance Limited. Mr. Kunal, over to you, please.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, Elets team for having me, for this particular conference, and I also, would like to thank my esteemed panelists to, support me in this particular answer, so that we can explain to our audience, how this particular model works in different organizations in different ways. And the views that I'm going to be sharing over here are my personal views and not the company's views. So, first of all, let's go back in the time and, understand, the already orthodox model of working. If you go back in time, and I'm not saying way beyond, I'm just saying maybe 5 years or even, 7 years back in time, where things were really, situated, all the data, all the systems, everything was really situated in an office premise. So whatever information was getting, procured from outside, maybe in the form of application forms or any other paper form, they were getting digitized in a secured office premise. So the data was always inside the office, and you kind of prepare your security architecture in and around the office premise, so that data, the access controls and everything are kind of limited to that particular office premise, whether it could be the corporate office of an organization or could be a branch. So pretty much everything was within that fort. But gone are the days. Internet is the new thing. SaaS apps have come in, with the service softwares on cloud, the infrastructure services on cloud, the IoT devices are there now, remote devices are there. Specifically during the pandemic time, we saw, extreme level of remote connections which were happening. And therefore, what it does is that it increases the wider and multiple entry points for, the criminals to enter into, the secured office domain. And what it brings is a situation where you never trust unless you verify anybody, like what Karthik you mentioned. And no devices, users or workloads or systems are basically working without any authentication. So what we do in terms of zero trust, so so this particular problem initiated, the need of a zero trust kind of a framework, which has to come in.
Hello.
So what is a zero trust framework? In my
Yeah.
opinion, basically it is a framework which is having 7 layers. The first
Yeah.
layer is
You
the
can
network,
call
so
me
a
after.
zero
Yeah.
trust network. The second, in the zero trust network, basically you have to review, your network architecture and put controls over the network architecture. This could be firewall-based control. This could be other controls that you are, plugging in as a mitigation plan. The second one is basically the zero trust workloads. Uh, and then it comes, then basically, what comes is the zero trust data, where, the data which is floating in the organization, and today it's not actually floating in the organization, it's also floating outside the organization. The data is actually certain times coming from public network, certain times we are calling APIs as well. So, trust no data source until and unless you verify that. The fourth pillar is basically the zero trust people. Gone are the days when you can, basically verify a person or an employee with the ID and, the password. Those are outdated forms of identification. So today, for example, in our organization, there is a machine level identification which happens first, followed by the person level identification, and followed by the department level, identification. So that the access of data which this person will get will be as per his, access levels and the department's access levels. The fifth pillar that we have in this particular framework is the zero trust devices. What kind of devices will you allow? And, you have to do a device verification. Like I said a few seconds back, we do device verification as well when, it is basically coming in the network of, our company. And this also holds true for other IoT devices as well. So these are those five, strong pillars which are typically used for the identification of and verification of, the external things which are happening. The rest two pillars are basically the mitigation pillars. These I define as, pillars where we do visibility and analytics of, this entire thing. By visibility, what I mean is that, the entire log monitoring piece. Now the logs are there, but somebody has to monitor, analyze, and then, decrypt it to. And when I say decrypt, I just mean that somebody has to simplify it in a language for somebody to understand that, okay, there is, a threat in the work environment or not. The last piece in this entire jigsaw puzzle, or this particular pillar, is called the automation and the orchestration pillar, where what we do is we define the actions, which is, in an automated manner, based on the level of incidents that we are receiving. So if the incidents are of severe nature, then obviously there will be a human intervention, or there could be, certain actions which are defined as per the company policy. But if they are low level incidents, then obviously, the machine takes over, and, those things can be curtailed. So with these seven pillars, if I am reviewing with my security team, the health of the information security, and when we implement zero trust environment, I typically review them within these seven pillars, and then see, with the first five, is there anything to be worried upon? And with the rest two, we see whether the identification has been, analyzed in a proper manner, and then the actions which have been taken, whether they are still up to date, or there has to be further elaboration or changes or updation in the actions that we have already documented as per the company policy on the automated platforms. So that is what we have set up as a zero trust framework for our organization.
Right, right, Mr. Kunal. I would also, I think you have very well explained how it's going in your organization, and from that, I think audience has also got some idea that how an organization is, leveraging this model. Mr. Shibu, PS, Chief Information Security Officer of Indian Bank. I would like to ask you, sir, how BFSI industry is embracing this, zero trust model, and do you think there is a need of a fundamental shift in the whole strategy or the architecture for a security leader like you? Uh, how BFSI sector is, looking at this model, Mr. Shibu? You're on mute, sir. If you please unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you, Karthik. Thank you, Elets Media. Uh, for me, the zero trust is actually it's a strategy. It's a strategy, or rather a journey. A journey which can be either finished over a period of time, or a kind of extended time. So it's not just implementation of a particular solution or multiple solutions. It's not like that. It is the term zero trust. Actually, it was used in the earlier application development time earlier, but now in this new era of breaches and compromise, this particular term has been incarnated into a new form and become now synonymous to cybersecurity. Now zero trust is synonymous to cybersecurity. So when talking about the BFSI sector, actually this is zero trust. It's an approach which verifies and scrutinizes everything which comes to the organization in a simple term. So an approach where the access controls are so minute, or so granular, or so it will make in a subtle way. And this is an approach where human interventions is less. That means it may power way to automation also. And when we think all these aspects, I can say BFSI sector is already into this business since long. Because as banks, I'm talking about the banks. See, banks are the custodians of data of the customers, and more importantly, money of the customers. So banks have been doing this process of strict access controls using identity and access management solution, or a privilege identity management solution, whatever it be, and a, a robust gateway solution, a gateway security is ensured, a data leakage prevention strategy is already there, a data classification is already there, then server level controls are already there, then endpoint security, that's also already there. So as far as the BFSI sector is concerned, we are already into this business. We are already into this business. Unknowingly, it is a zero trust. But now, zero trust is more intensive form of this kind of controls. It is having a tagline, as Mr. Kunal was telling, do not trust, always verify. So this is having the tagline. So hence the transition, or from the current robust model to a zero trust is, I don't think that it is very challenging for the bank. It may not be that much challenging for the bank, but of course, holistic approach, a holistic change in the approach is required. A gap analysis is required where we are now, and holistic approach required for the ICT infrastructure where we are now, network, perimeter, endpoint, CSOC, CyberSOC. These all the things, a gap analysis is required, and a phased transition, a phased manner. Transition in the phased manner is also suggested. rather than an abrupt change. So for BFSI sector, I think this is already you are climbing towards the Everest. You are halfway towards the Everest for the BFSI sector now. Only thing you have to finish the tough part and with the more vigilant care, because zero trust again it assumes that there is no implicit trust granted to the assets or for the accounts, user accounts, based solely on their physical location or based on their asset ownership or something. Authentication and authorization, as Mr. Kunal was telling, authentication and authorization are the discrete functions of this zero trust, and this has to be performed before a session or a session is established or a network is connected. So, unlike the solely perimeter-based security, zero trust promotes the micro-perimeter approach based on the user access or data location and application hosting model. So, I don't think that a drastic fundamental shifts is required because we are already into that area. So now only thing that a holistic approach towards where we are, and we have to complete the journey. That's all towards zero trust, because you cannot avoid zero trust because it is a need of the hour. You should not trust anyone because that is the way attacks are happening. Now recently means very recently, 3 days or 5 days back also in India, some compromises have happened. So these are all paving way for this kind of a zero trust. Means we should not trust anyone. We should always verify and then allow the access and other things. So definitely, this is a journey. This is a transition, but it may not be so challenging for the BFSI sector. That's what my opinion.
Okay. So, because if as a common user, if I see nowadays banks, promoting that even when in a transaction, money transaction, at the user end, there will be one more verification from user that yes, is it going to your account or not. So even many of banks I see promoting in advertisements also. It's just a common user's perspective on this. But I think we have all noticed that in during this pandemic, in 2020 last year, this adoption of zero trust security model got increased, also in BFSI sector. So I would like to know that has it changed the last year with the zero trust security aspect? Has there been any change in BFSI landscape, or uh, is it at users end or at companies end? I would like to ask you, Mr. Damodaran Chambat, Chief Risk Officer, Federal Bank. You know, in this last one and a half year, have you seen that change in the industry security landscape?
Yeah, actually, just complementing what Mr. Shibu has pointed out, banks are already in the journey. They are earlier itself, even before the onset of pandemic and all, banks have started that journey. Earlier, it was, say, based on perimeter security. But now, as rightly pointed out, it has moved to micro perimeter based security. That is, the units are becoming smaller and smaller. It is based on authentication that you say permit them. Authorization and authentication, as rightly pointed out by Mr. Shibu. So coming to the question, a pandemic definitely has brought its own challenges as well, because you are not in certain territories earlier. Earlier, this work from home is confined to a few segments and industries, say like IT and all. It was much prevalent. But when the pandemic struck, we bankers also have invented how to manage your business continuity measures, how to manage your, say, activities without compromising your security. So work from home was work from home, or even we call it work from anywhere. We had to adopt such practices. And even the digital transactions have increased manifold. Hitherto, people who were coming to bank branches or even just withdrawing cash from ATM and making payments, they have also adopted digital to a very good extent. So that has definitely catalyzed the movement or the journey of banks towards achieving a fullness in zero trust network adoption. Because you have done a few quiet things. Say, for example, work from home. Earlier, we never envisaged it. But in pandemic, as you have to do it, this adoption of zero trust network security has definitely helped you, because what we have done is, when we are giving our permissions for certain say applications through say connected VPNs and all, one thing what we were doing is, we were permitting only on a need to access basis. The reporting authority will see which all applications and which all things you need to access, and for that only you will give permissions. So and again, after that, whatever they are doing, these activities are monitored as well. So the journey, it is actually pointed out, it's a continuous journey. Banks, I will not claim that we have reached say 100%. It's a journey, but as rightly Shibu pointed out, we have crossed the 50% mark well easily, and we are accustomed to it. It has accelerated definitely. A lot of new developments have come in those areas, but still it is a journey, and pandemic has just catalyzed that journey, I would say.
Yes, because the pandemic has catalyzed also the digital transactions, digital banking, definitely, and then also this model of zero trust. I would like to know from you, Mr. Manoj Srivastav. Uh, you are a Chief Information Security Officer in Future General Insurance. I would like to know from you, from an insurance company's perspective, what are the challenges, and at the same time, I would like to know from you if there are any opportunities. What are the challenges and opportunities with this model, Mr. Manoj?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Karthik. Hi, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to be here in the panel. First of all, whatever I'm saying, it's my personal opinion. It has nothing to do with my organization. Uh, if we talk about the opportunities and challenges for zero trust, so first of all we have to understand. I will compliment to Kunal and Shibusa and Mr. Damodran, that it's a philosophy. Zero trust is it's not a separate control altogether. It's a philosophy. uh, Verify and then trust. That's all. It's a set of processes. It's a set of operational and administrative control. It's a set of technical controls, and nowadays it's also a set of psychological controls. That is a an additional pillar nowadays, looking into new payloads and way of frauds. Definitely, automation, AI, ML is a part of zero trust. If we talk about the organizations, say 96% of organization, they want to be agile, they want to be AI driven for security, but and out of that, maybe 65 to 70% of organizations, they have directly or indirectly invested into it also. But when it comes to analytics into action, only 16% of them have achieved it, which is an integral part of zero trust collaboration of different solutions we have. So first of all, the roadmap, the milestones, the destination has to be very much clearly defined. Where I am, where I have to go, what are my short-term strategies, what are my long-term strategies, failing which may have failing which may put us into some different kind of situation, wherein there will be a tough situation to show return of security investment before leadership really secure the organization. So first, the opportunity first, well planning. Maybe we can plan with a new department or new product which is going live in the organization. Then gradually, what all things are there, and gradually we have to integrate that. For example, I'll give you identity and access management. All the organizations, they have well set process nowadays. Most of the organizations are 27,001 certified. It is only putting a technical control to ensure whatever intent of organization is into action. That's all, and that is zero trust. The pandemic, what challenges we have been facing nowadays, identity of a person, it transformed into digital identity, which is now a virtual identity. Why I told psychological, for an example, if I'm customer of X bank, I have my date of birth, I have my PAN number, I have my Aadhaar number. Bank and the other, organizations, they are putting a lot to protect my private information. However, I am posting these information on the other way in the dark web or social media. Me, I have a single identity. I have single PAN card. I have single Aadhaar card. I am posting it somewhere else, and X Bank is trying to protect you. From hackers' point of view, my identity is already compromised. The only thing is how soon attacker can do some kind of demography or model change to get password or guess the password. Okay, so the virtual identity, managing virtual identity, authenticating virtual identity is really becoming challenge, and the opportunity is multi-factor authentication. Like rightly Kunal said that the risk team or the security team, they can authenticate user, but what kind of access? So everyone may not be knowing. So that's why it's a joint responsibility of the business units, of the security team, risk team, IT team. So these kind of challenges are there, and opportunities are also there, to interlinking the processes and all.
Right,
Yes.
Mr. Manoj. Mr. Kunal, I would also, yes. Uh, uh, Thank you, Mr. Manoj. I would also like to know from you, Mr. Kunal, what sort of challenges and opportunities do you see in this such model?
It depends on organization to organization, and the kind of customer base that you are dealing with. If you ask us, our customer base is a group of customers which, in terms of their digital literacy, may not be at their peak, and because we kind of still have a majority of our customers who are new to credit, and with those customers coming into the the financial inclusion state, their digital literacy and digital footprints are also very limited. And therefore, what few minutes back Manoj said, while we may be protecting or masking, a lot of their data, storing them separately, which is, the SPII data is stored in a separate manner, but some way or the other, their sensitive data is available on other networks. And, therefore, you are only, hoping that, those information are not being compromised, and, those information are not being misused by the dark world. And when this kind of a challenge happens, therefore, the responsibility that we take as an organization, and which is where the opportunity comes in, is the education of customer, which I know for sure that the banks are really leading that particular domain very fast, as well as very swiftly, because you get a in regular intervals, you get messages from the banks of that they will not be using the sensitive data, and there is no required to share any sensitive data. So, but at the same time, the rest of the sector, which is the NBFC sector, and now even the fintechs have started to, put out these education campaigns to ensure that the people are basically not misusing, or are not being misguided by imposters, by telling them that they are a particular part of this particular company or Y particular company, and by giving certain sensitive data and then gaining the trust of the customer to get the access to their financial statements, or basically financial systems. So that's where I believe that presently the challenge is in terms of increasing the awareness of this kind of a sensitive data being available with people, and they don't basically easily upload or key in that information in non-trusted sites. And when it comes to banks or BFSI sector, we as a sector, we are like we've been talking about, we are already in the journey from a long time back to gather that information and then store it in a responsible manner. It's only the matter of how the customers get also aware that their information is also their property and not only our property. We treat their property in our custody as a sensitive information, but at the end of the day they are the custodians of their property, and digital data is also a part of their property, and that is what the awareness campaigns talk about. That is what we kind of guide to people, whether it is in the form of email or SMS or any other form.
That's very important point about awareness and education to the users about it. Mr. Shivu, I would like to request you to throw some light on how important this education and awareness is, and is it up to the mark in the BFSI industry, or needs some better work?
No, education anyway, education is required for all. Education is required because whenever your strategy is getting changed, you need to educate the people what way the strategy is going to act or what will be the impact on the strategy. Suppose if you are adopting the zero trust from the conventional approach or whatever you are having presently, you are going to a transition stage. So definitely this kind of education is required, and because uh, especially in the organizational level, you are dividing the data into zero trust is again you are dividing the data into a more compartmentalized way, and then you are providing the access with the least privilege principle. Again, access also you are providing again that compartmentalized data, and then you are having a good visibility on all those things. So these kind of things, definitely an education at the organization wide is required. So because zero trust is assuming that your organization is already compromised. It is already compromised. So accordingly, only that zero trust is building upon the trust. Your organization, it assumes that yes, it is compromised. Now you have to build the trust. So during the process or during this journey, education is also important. And again, what's called that challenges for adoption. Again, if in my way, if I say the challenges of adopting this zero trust, it includes above micro segmentation, whatever we have mentioned earlier, micro segmentation of the network and user level, this granular level of access control. Then this micro segmentation also could be a challenging part as far as the BFSI sector is concerned. Even though we are segmenting the data, we are classifying the data, we have already classified the data, but micro segmentation again can be a challenging. So a revisit of the current architecture for adopting this zero trust architecture could be a challenge, but not a very impossible kind of things. Once again, the implementation of zero trust in a phased manner, that is more advisable to get a more clarity and visibility of the data and access to the data. So, as far as the education part is concerned, yes, and education and awareness is required across the industry for adopting any kind of framework, especially since this is dealing with the data. For zero trust architecture, that is inevitable and that is a need of the hour.
Right, right. So, also, if you talk about the fintech applications, while today these fintech applications are currently at the center of infrastructure transformation. So, when all these fintech applications are, in the process of infrastructure transformation, where does the zero trust fits in? And in that scenario, I would like to take your views, Mr. Damodaran, on this.
Yeah, actually, for fintechs to carry out their activities, definitely in an automated fashion, they need to carry out that. Integration with BFSI players is very crucial. Without that, they will not be able to do anything, particularly fintechs. In the traditional closed model, it would have been practically very difficult. But as the banks have transitioned to zero trust, they are even considering their own people inside only after verification, authentication, and all. It is very easy for fintechs to fit into that. because they also will be say subjected to all this kind of, when the model of zero trust is in place, it is very easy to onboard them into the platform. Earlier in the traditional model of say closed model, it would have been not possible at all for banks to do that. But now with zero trust network in place, you have to just plug and play. You can say API, through API and all, you can just plug and play their models seamlessly through your system, that too without compromising any security. That is the advantage of zero trust network vis-a-vis the adoption of fintech based say business is concerned.
Right. So you spoke about the traditional models. I would
Yeah,
like to
before
ask
that,
you.
I'll just add to what Mr. Damodaran said. The fintech models are primarily based on the cloud service, where basically they use infrastructure as a service on cloud. And therefore, what happens is that, the zero trust model even becomes more crucial for them, because they, unlike, an established bank or a NBFC, which is there, they will still have, their offline or basically the physical infrastructure, which is still in place. But when it comes to fintech model, these are basically, new setups which are there, and typically to ensure that there is a, lot of agility, fast moving, and at the same time, low cost investments. The models are pretty much, most of them are based on cloud servicing. And when so therefore, the threat levels over there and the basically mitigation plans therefore are more crucial and more important, in a fintech model. And that's where, when you compare to a traditional model versus a fintech model, the differentiation clearly stands out. Sorry, you
That's
were
right.
saying
That's right.
something.
So yes, that's right. So how can it help these, those traditional models across the sector? Because reportedly they are incompatible, if you use that word. So how this secure zero trust security model can help the traditional models across this BFSI sector? May I ask you, Mr. Manoj, about it?
Yeah, sure. So in traditional model, like earlier I said, Karthik, that there used to be a set of process. The zero trust model helps us, especially in the situation of the organizations are going with boundaryless. I don't have any perimeter. My data is in cloud. Some of the applications are working from traditional data centers, so multi-cloud environment. Uh, in that case, the traditional approach of creating users, validating them on the last working day, removing them, there are chances of having manual error in place, and that kind of single manual error can result in a big fraud, a big attack. So zero trust definitely helps in automating these things to ensure that the person who is authorized, the ID will be created. The person who is leaving organization, automatically the ID will be disabled. So these kind of things helps on the traditional way. There are also multi-layer verification. For example, if I have an administrator, so there are different set of administrator. I have L2 administrator, L3 administrator. I have super administrators also. So some of the technical controls of zero trust also ensures that the commands the administrator are shooting into the system, they are not with bad intention. If I'm deleting entire database and then putting commit, then the technical control will prevent executing that kind of command. So these kind of advanced solutions are there, which helps really to protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the data. Also, the sessions are being recorded with privileged identity management. So zero trust, it's a first of all, the layered approach, the isolated approach. I have my PIM solution, I have my DAM solution, I have DAM identity and access management solution, I have X solution, Y solution. So all of these solutions will be integrated, and the threat intelligence from point A to point B will be automatically transferred, and automatic results are created. So I'll give an example that I have my SOC in place. I also have good analytics in place. I analyzed and found that 10 IPs are suspicious and they are trying to get into my organization. I have shared it to the network administrator. Network administrator normally they take 4 hours, 5 hours to block it in a firewall, or it may be possible that it is getting blocked after 2 days. Depends upon the different level of contracts we have with different level of the support provider. So zero trust, the automation posture will take insight from threat intel and automatically block it in firewall. No human dependency. And once it is blocked by that AI, if someone wants to revoke that from firewall, then there will be multi-layer authentication required. If I'm network admin, still I want to revoke that kind of IP, I will be needing one additional layer of approval. So these kind of sophisticated this kind of approach really helps to protect from sophisticated attack. But one thing remains same, that cyber security, despite of zero trust or anything, cyber security is struggling, and it will keep struggling forever, because we are in. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, perfectly.
We are struggling because we are in level 2. So entire gamut is having 3 layers: layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. We are operating from layer 2. Layer 1 is nothing but having common rule for all the countries across world. If there is phishing attack, malicious domain, who are registering them? We don't have any control. They are free to register, they are free to do anything. We don't have any control. Neither there is a common global rule. We are saying global village, but where is common rule, global rule? So we don't have control on layer 1. Layer 3 is nothing but who are beneficiary, getting into bitcoins, cryptocurrency. Finding money trail is really very difficult. So until that is available for the right authorities, layer 1 and layer 3, layer 2 will always be struggling. Yes, but definitely zero trust will help to reduce the risk up to certain degree, rather significant degree, but cannot guarantee that the things will be protected 100%.
That's right. And also, there's the one question from audience is there that do you see automation and zero trust go hand in hand? Uh, can you please explain? So, may I request Mr. Shivu or Mr. Manoj if you would like to?
So, see, automation is a part of zero trust. See, zero trust is altogether, it's not different solution, different technology, or different product. It's a philosophy. And automation is a need of zero trust. Right? Like I said, if I need, 4 days to, blacklist some IP, and someone can remove easily, then the security doesn't make any sense for the organization to protect. So automation means if I have some insight from laptop that maybe some USB drive or some public Wi-Fi, something has entered into my laptop, which is very sophisticated, and the threat intelligence will be collected from laptop and across over rest of the laptop, so that the automatic outbreak can be in place to protect it from spreading, and the corrective and preventive action can be automated. So automation is not in hand to hand, but it's a part of zero trust by design, by philosophy.
Right, right.
i,
Also,
I hope that clarifies.
yes, yes, definitely. Automation is, I think, definitely goes hand in hand. When we talk of artificial intelligence, AI, so a question arises that do we need a strong AI-driven identity strategy if you want to balance this zero trust uh, within the organization or within the industry? So, is there an important role of strong AI-driven identity strategy? I would like to ask you, Mr. Shivu.
Yeah, AI and ML are now those new disruptive technologies. Definitely, not only in zero trust, even in for business transformation or digitalization, also these kind of disruptive technologies definitely is going to help. But in my opinion, say this zero trust is purely on cyber security. AI, ML, or this kind of IoT, these are all disruptive technologies where first it will be captured and invented by the business people. And business people will try to utilize this kind of technologies, this kind of AI, ML kind of technologies to boost the business. So in that area, security peoples or the risk people, they have to again map the security to that extent. Security, they will be struggling or they have to run after this technology to see the risk of, say, for example, ML or AI. ML, what kind of risk ML can cause, or what kind of privacy breach which AI can cause. These are the concerns for CISOs and the CROs. But business will adopt those technologies. Then the CRO and the CISO has to what's called to rise this particular security, this cyber security to that level. That is a difficult part for a CISO and the CRO. But as far as zero trust is concerned, it is purely our baby. It is purely our baby, nothing to do with the business. It will enhance the business. That is one thing. But we need not run after zero trust. Zero trust is adopted by the business and what to do with the security. It's not like that. Zero trust is purely on cyber security. In my opinion, it is purely on cyber security. But other aspects like new generation technologies, yes, first it will be adopted by the business, then security will be, it should be at par with that. So, but comparing the machine learning or AI with the zero trust, I'm not sure about that. But still, if it can help the zero trust technology to boost further, it will be good for the industry. But zero trust again, I'm telling you, it's purely on the cyber security. It's our baby.
Right, right.
And there is
So I think yes.
a important saying on that, and Shibu and Manoj will maybe vouch for that. When it comes to information security, there is no CBA which is available to prove that there is a cost save that we will bring if you implement machine learning or invest in machine learning based solution or AI based solutions. The cost save over there, or the saving for the organization, is the agility to move in case a threat is being observed. When it comes to AIML, that is what you get. Basically, the agility factor goes up significantly. Therefore, what Shibu said, when it comes to business, there is always a CBA which is there. It becomes easier to, explain that this is the benefit that you will get out of it. This is the cost save that you will get out of it, and therefore you get, early approvals for implementing new technologies in business initiatives than security led initiatives. But I'm also observing in last so many years of my experience that situations are changing now. People are even at board level, at management level, getting serious on information security and cyber security related controls as well. But this is one factor which at least I've been seeing for a long time, explaining what is the benefit if we do this. It's not possible sometimes to explain what is the benefit of putting multiple locks in your house. If the person can break one lock, he can break another one. That is the argument which comes out. But it's not. But if he has to break two locks, the time that he has to spend in breaking both the locks will be double. So that is the time sufficient for you, maybe through your vulnerability or your threat management process, that you might be able to catch him and allow sorry and maybe stop the breach to happen. So that is also one thing that we as risk or security guys, information security guys, sometimes you have to battle this particular question as well.
That's
Yeah,
right, and I think yes, yes,
yeah,
logs.
I think
yeah.
I touched Shibu's heart over there.
Yeah, definitely, Kunal. Because see, as you told, this now board is also very much aware, and the board is very much made aware by even for thanks to regulators, at least to an extent of cyber security. Because now in board meeting, this cyber security is important agenda. It's not like that. Just okay,
Correct.
that agenda is okay. That will pass. It's not like
Correct.
that. They're discussing
Correct.
seriously, And they are asking, why can't we implement a zero trust? As if it is one solution that implemented and then we can say zero trust. It's not like that. We have to make them understand that we are making them understand that it's not a complete one solution or a multiple solution you're implementing. Or you cannot say that at a particular point of time that I am zero trust now. I have implemented zero trust. It's not like that. It's optimization. Continuous optimization is required. You cannot say at any point of time that okay, my organization is zero trust now. Again, attack may come, risk may come. You have to address it with the zero trust technology. That's all. So it's again continuous optimization.
That's right. So when we talk of these disruptive technologies, coming back to them again, if we think that AI, ML, they can help in zero trust or in but at the same time, as Mr. Shibu said that, I would like to ask you, Mr. Damodaran, that these modern technologies, disruptive technologies, do they make the system more vulnerable, or information security guy has to be more, agile then, or has to put more efforts in security? Are these disruptive technologies actually becoming a challenge to a security person?
No doubt at all. But for that matter, though it is so, you cannot say stay back from it. This is a journey which you have to definitely adopt. Otherwise, your business will not grow. You will have to be agile. You will have to adopt all the disruptive technologies. Maybe sometimes you may feel some of them are competitors, but yes, you have to go together. You have to move fast. Otherwise, it will impact your business. And particularly, it will be very difficult for you to attract new gen customers. They don't, as we know, they don't come to bank branches nowadays and sit. You may not be even seeing the customer sometimes. That may be a risk. It's a different point. But without adoption of disruptive technologies, you should be staying ahead the curve, not staying along with the curve. Those who are moving first, they have the first mover advantage. But having said that, when you are moving first, you will have to invent, say, equally important or equally, better or equal good technology and equal good security measures to ensure that your security is not compromised. So it adds to the work, no doubt. But we are not running away from that. CISOs and CROs can never run away from that. We are paid for that. So though it is a truth, we welcome it rather, because it gives us more challenges, and we will be able to support business in that way as well. That ensuring that yes, these controls and measures we are putting in place, just go by that. You will be able to do business through these new disruptive technologies.
And will also the zero trust will also help in business, maximizing, optimizing business for an organization. Uh, if I can ask.
Definitely, because otherwise some of these kind of fintechs and all, you will not be able to go at all. Only because of you are adopting the zero trust, you are able to onboard such businesses. So it definitely helps. Finally, everything, whatever security measures and all we are taking, everything will support the business expansion as well. That is particularly adoption of disruptive technologies.
This adoption will come naturally. Naturally, because earlier, long back, we can see that when we were authenticating into a system, we were only using the user ID password. That's all. There was no thinking of second factor authentication, and we were not at all envisaging at that time second factor authentication. But again, the attack has changed, attack vectors have changed, and the playground is also widened. So the second factor authentication has come. Now people are not bothered for the second factor. Just like that, they are putting the second factor authentication, they are waiting for the OTP and entering it. It's quite natural. It has become the part and parcel of the life. So like that, no, zero trust also it will become, over a period of time, it will be the part and parcel of life, and we cannot get away from that.
So was it like that in last few years or a decade or so? Security had taken a back step, or business development took companies took that aspect more seriously, or do you think that now in pandemic, because of digital ecosystem, now people are getting more serious towards security, and that is why these zero trust security model and such models are um, you know, uh, getting more mileage. I would like to ask you, Mr. Manoj, is it like that now the industry is shifting focus to more to security uh, than the previous, the last 1 decade? I would like to ask you.
I would like to say that it's a not it's a demand of situation. That's all. If a bank is unable to save money of the stakeholders, account holders, then definitely they are going to lose business. It's all about how customer is confident to consume the services of that bank or any institution. We have been talking about user experience. So earlier it was how convenient my services are to user, but security is an integral part of user experience nowadays. And that's how nowadays security or securing data or other information uh, is in it's hot potato nowadays. It's a demand of situation, demand of time. One more thing I would like to say, when we talk about user awareness or information security awareness, it's not only employee. So all the organizations, they follow ISMS pillar. ISMS pillar also says that external and internal stakeholders. So external stakeholders may be regulation, and apart that, customers are also my stakeholders. So how I am educating my customer, that also is very important. You must be hearing that for KYC there are maybe 175 crore of a scam. A retired Chief Justice of Supreme Court paid 1,25,000 to a scammer unknowingly. He thought of his friend. Despite you have a lot of technical controls, you cannot guarantee. Like I said earlier, I may have 1+1 email gateway. I cannot prevent spear phishing attack. Educating customers, educating employee, that also is very important. And this is increased during pandemic because the frauds are increased. And I think the security awareness things, how to secure your WhatsApp or maybe morphing, cyberbullying, this should be an integral part of study since maybe class 5 or class 8. I'm simply saying, you cannot educate anyone. If a person is retired opening internet banking, you cannot educate each and everything. It should be from beginning. It should be in culture of society, culture of organization. So that also
Right.
is a necessity. I think people and the regulation will definitely look into that.
Yes, right. Very much, very important. It should be incorporated from the roots. Very important, Mr. Manoj. And now I think we are at the closing end of the session, and I would like to request each panelist to give their closing remarks so that we can summarize this discussion, various important points being discussed here. So I'll start with Mr. Kunal from Hinduja Leyland. Mr. Kunal, please give the closing remarks from your side.
Yeah, I would firstly, say that whatever we have been discussing thus far, there are three things which have come out commonly. One is, zero trust is not something that, we are developing or we are implementing right now. It's just a framework, to a particular science that is already existing. And, the current need of the art of the hour is basically, to ensure that with multiple entry points for the cyber criminals, you need to be up the curve, and rather than what Mr. Damodaran said, rather than even riding the curve. That is a difference, between a decade back and today. Today you have to be ahead of the curve rather than riding on the curve or behind the curve. So that is point number one. Point number two being, the education of and awareness of the customers, the employees, the vendors and support staff is very important. You can't expect things to be done by the risk function or the information security function on its own. It's something which requires like any other activity in the business. Suppose you want to enhance the business and increase the business volume. Only one particular department, say the sales department, you suddenly push and the volume will increase, doesn't happen. Everybody else who's processing the data, who's collecting, who's managing the portfolio, everybody has to pitch in. And similarly, in this also it has to be a collaborative approach. And finally, the importance of all what we are talking about over here is nothing but at the peripheral, the four key pillars of risk management. Zero Trust is also giving you those, is also basically laid down on those four key pillars only, which is to identify and measure and then mitigate and then finally report. That is the framework that we follow in any kind of risk management practice. Whether it is portfolio risk management or liquidity risk management or even on the cyber security related risk management actions. So, Zero Trust allows you to identify, set up the measurement on the prioritization. With new age technology like AI and ML, you have mitigation plan in place, and then, continuously report and evaluate if you need to update it. Thank you.
Right, Mr. Kunal. Thank you for your remarks. And Mr. Shibu, I would like to request you for the closing remarks.
Yeah, for me, zero trust again, it is we are running in phases. Earlier we were manual, so we adopted that. Now next they will be automated, adopted. Again we interconnected, adopted. Again, where we were into one time we were in the mainframe, adopted, and then client server based, adopted. Now this is the next phase, zero trust, because that is the way attacks are happening. Because it is not at all a predictable way. Attackers are always running one step ahead. That all security people will agree, 100%. Entire security people and the entire globe will agree that attackers are always running with one step ahead. Because they have the R&D in place, they have the budget in place, and it is country sponsored or state sponsored. So definitely they have to run one step ahead. So when these attack vectors are changing and we also become so wide and the stage is also become wide. So this kind of adoption of this kind of zero trust technology. Now I can say yes, zero trust is perfect. But tomorrow it can change. Tomorrow other technology can come. Zero trust maybe at the time it will become obsolete. You may not at the time you may not believe zero trust at all, because it will become obsolete. We can see, right? Take it from me. So this is the way things are developing. So now we are into this phase. Now as far as we are talking about encryption, now it is safe, it is secure. Yes, RSA key is not at all broken, so it is safe. So at this moment, yes, zero trust is the need of the hour. That phase we have to go through. Ultimately, our aim is to protect the data and information. So zero trust is something which needs to be adopted at this moment. So that's what. Thank you.
Yeah, right. Trust is always dynamic. It always shifts from one place to another place with time. So same with this model, right? And I would like to now request Mr. Damodaran to please give your closing remarks.
Yeah, adoption of security, as rightly pointed out by all the speakers, we cannot stay back from it. You have to adopt the new technologies, and risk will also increase only. Current, say, mitigation measures, as rightly pointed out by Mr. Shibu, may not be sufficient. It will prove totally insufficient. So when you are adopting new technologies, definitely there are new threats which are, coming to you. You need to adopt the right mitigation measures and move on. We cannot stay back from it. There will be some inconveniences, yes, when you everybody, not everybody, at least a lot of people like status quo. But status quo will just leave us there. World will move on. We cannot have a status quo. So we have to move on. There is no other go. You cannot compromise on security as well, because the impact of that will be devastating. I always tell my team, market risk, your measurement is almost perfect. You know, if this is the moment in interest rate, of course, you don't know that up to what level interest rate will move. But if this is the moment in interest rate, this is the loss in my portfolio at the given point of time. It is very precise. You will be able to tell it. When it comes to credit risk, you will not be able to predict with that much precision. It will slightly blur, but still you will be able to estimate and give a very good estimate as well. what would be your losses whether if this happens. But in case of operational risk and general and in particular cyber security, you cannot have such a comfort. You don't know where it will end up. We have seen what has happened across the globe. So we cannot compromise on that because it will result in reputation risk, it will result in regulatory risk, it will result in financial risk. And the organizations can simply, with one event, organizations can simply get wiped off from the face of the globe. So there is no other go. You have to move on. You have to move on along with the curve or ahead of the curve. There is no other go but to adopt the security measures at whatever cost it may be.
Right, that's right. The move on, you have to move on. That's a law. If you have to, grow, and at the same time, you cannot uh, afford to compromise with security. More and more you grow, more and more vulnerable you are to the threats and frauds. That's right. I would like to ask you, request you, Mr. Manoj, for your closing remarks, please.
Yeah, yeah. So well, nicely said. Kunal, Shibu sir, and Damodaran sir. So, to reach somewhere we have to start, and then zero trust is also a journey for this era. So we have to move on with it. And I used to say one thing to everybody, maybe audience, that bring the culture of security within your organization, your practices. Security, it's a discipline, it's a practice. It cannot be different for professional life or personal life. So you are CISO for your family and your workplace. So that's all.
Right, right. So I think it's great to discuss about zero trust, and I think it is an idea, it is a philosophy, and which is dynamic. It's not that there's no single point where you can see that they say that okay, zero trust is it is done, and it can be an obsolete technology in future as well. But yes, it's in a need of hour, and as you all said that yes, we have to move on, but we have to be very, very, you know, focusing. We should be on this security aspect, information security aspect, and zero trust can be a good model. So here we close this discussion, and I hope the audience must have got a great clarity on zero trust, especially in the BFSI sector. Their pros, cons, everything is being discussed here, and it was wonderful discussion for me to have this, and I also increased my knowledge about this particular model. And here we would like to present the speaker certificates to eminent panelists who spared time and joined us. I request my backend team to please present the certificates here on the screen. Mr. Damodaran Jambat, Chief Risk Officer of Federal Bank. Thank you, Mr. Damodaran, for being here. Mr. Kunal, Chief Risk Officer of Hinduja Leyland Finance Limited. Thank you so much, Mr. Kunal. Mr. Shibu, Chief Information Officer of Indian Bank. Thank you so much, sir. Last but not the least, Mr. Manoj Srivastav, Chief Information Security Officer of Future General Insurance. Thank you so much, Mr. Manoj, for being here. And here we close the discussion. Thank you so much once again. And audience, be with us for the next sessions.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much, Elets team and
Thank you.
my esteemed panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karthik. Thank you,
Thank you.
Alex.
Thank you for the invite. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you,
Thank
Karthik
you.
sir, for moderating the session.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, with this, we now end all our panel discussions and presentations for the day, and we conclude day two. So, just to summarize what we did during the day, we had three panel discussions. The topics for the same were changing BFSI regulation, redefining the future, artificial intelligence, blockchain, cloud, and more a reality check, and the challenges of securing zero trust networks. We had presentations by Jonathan Jackson, Mr. Prabir Mishra, Mr. Satya Gupta, and Mr. Ajay Shenoy. I hope all our viewers enjoyed and had a wonderful learning session today. And I'd once again like to thank all our partners, starting with AWS as our presenting partner, Backbase as our powered by partner, BlackBerry as our AI-driven cybersecurity partner, Inspira as our digital cybersecurity partner, Fortinet as our security partner, BMC as our SaaS technology partner, VirSec as our runtime application security partner, Simplify as our artificial intelligence partner, Tenable as our cybersecurity partner, MapMyIndia as our map and location partner, Quality Kiosk as our associate partner, Neosoft Technologies as our networking partner, ScoreMe as our knowledge partner, Trust One as our emerging tech partner, and Compass as our rewarding partner. So I'd once again like to thank all our partners and all our panelists who were present today, and see you all tomorrow for another day of power-packed panel discussions and technology presentations. So stay tuned and see you all tomorrow. Thank you.
विश्व में हमने युवाओं की आईटी एनर्जी के माध्यम से अपना एक रुतबा खड़ा किया है और भारत इसके बाद के लिए गर्व कर सकता है। दुनिया में हम आंख में आंख लगा करके बात कर सकते हैं। और ये मेरा साफ मैं हमेशा कहता आया हूं, IT plus IT is equal to IT। इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी प्लस इंडियन टैलेंट